captain of that 1980 USA national hockey team, Mike Eruzione. Good morning to you. So I got to start with your thoughts on last night's game. USA dominant 5-1 win over Latvia to open up the 2026 Olympics. What do you think of their chances this year? Looks like it's going to come down to just basically the USA and Canada, right?
I think it will. I watched the game yesterday. A little nervous early. Latvia was playing pretty well, and then all of a sudden, the United States showed how good they are. With all due respect to all of our Olympic teams in the past, this is the best team we've ever put on the ice. This is the deepest team we've ever had. The talent is clearly there. I'm excited for their opportunity. The Soviets aren't playing, so it's a little different now. To some degree, I think it's going to come down to U.S. and Canada. You always have to worry about Sweden. Sweden's always talented, but and I think, in fairness, I think this might be the best Canadian team we've ever seen. With due respect to, Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky, when they played together, again, this Canadian team is deep. They have arguably the best player in the world with Connor McDavid. So I think it's going to be exciting. I clearly think, like I said, it's going to come down to U.S. and Canada. But you're talking to me, anything can happen in the Olympic Games. So, who knows?
That is right. So, yeah,
But let me just throw out one more last thing. Our women's team is absolutely spectacular. This is the best women's team we've put on the ice. Clearly, they're the favorites to win the gold medal, and I'd love to see that happen. And wouldn't it be great if we have 2 gold medals in ice hockey?
That would be wonderful. Mike, I know that you've been very vocal on how athletes represent America at the Olympics. We know that U.S. skier Hunter Hess is now walking back comments that he has mixed feelings about representing the U.S. When you played on the 1980 team, what did wearing the Stars and Stripes mean to you?
Well, people are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I've said it from day one. Other than being a police officer, a firefighter, or someone in the military who protects and serves our country, there's no greater feeling than putting on a USA jersey. You're not playing for Boston or Chicago or Los Angeles. You're playing for your country. And to be able to do it is an incredible, incredible honor. In 1980, we had the honor of doing it in our own country and playing in our own country. And there's nothing better. There's no greater feeling than putting that jersey on. And I guess maybe some athletes look at that differently. We're living in a different era now with social media and all the stuff that's going on. But I think the majority of our athletes that compete, I would say more than the majority, I would say almost all of them have great pride in representing the country. I've always said the Olympic Games is about Olympic competition. It's not about your political views. It's not your platform or your soapbox to talk about what you think or doesn't think is going on in our country. We have enough issues going on in our country. We don't need to hear it from our athletes. Talk about it on your Facebook pages or your Instagram or whatever. But the Olympic Games is not the vehicle for that, in my opinion. I do believe people have a right to say what they want to say, but hold it back, and it shouldn't be in the Olympic Games, and I feel really strongly about that. It's a special time. If you're a skier, ski. If you're a hockey player, play hockey. That's what I want to hear about. I don't want to hear about what you think is going on in our country. We hear that every day.
Well said.
Yeah, and speaking of hockey, that 1980 Miracle team, Netflix just released a new documentary on your incredible run in Lake Placid. How do you think it turned out, and what's the one thing you hope fans are going to take away from it the most?
I thought it was absolutely spectacular. You don't know what's going to happen. They interview you, they talk to you, they talk to your teammates, and then they put it all together and it comes on the screen. I just think I want people to see the backdrop of our families, our stories, how we got to be there. Kenny Morrow's got an incredible story about his dad and what it meant for him to play in the Olympic Games. And here's a kid that won 4 Stanley Cups with the New York Islanders. So the backdrop of our team and the sacrifices and the work that we all put in together to accomplish this incredible, incredible moment in our lives. And I think they'll see what it did for a nation, too. I think that Netflix talked about what was happening in our country. And I've said this as well lately. We could use a 1980 now. Not for us. What we did is what we did. It's over and ended. But the joy that we brought to a nation at a time when we needed something to feel good about, I think that comes across clearly in the documentary, which makes it that much more special for my teammates and I to look back and realize that, like I said, people come up to me today, depending on how old they are. I remember where I was when Kennedy was assassinated. I remember where I was when the Challenger blew up. I remember where I was in 9/11. And I remember where I was when we won. And I always say I didn't know you were on the team. But that's what that moment meant to a lot of people at a difficult time. So I think the Netflix documentary touches that.
I was 10 years old and I was definitely watching it, I'll tell you that.
And the documentary is amazing, very emotional.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.